Hi there, my name is Whitney and I am the DIYer behind the blog and YouTube channel Whiskey Whit, and I'm also the creator behind the curation of the January 2023 Expressions Vinyl Mystery Project Box. I was so excited when they reached out and asked me to help curate this box because I love Expressions Vinyl products, and today I'm really excited because I'm going to show you one of my favorite things to do with their products, and that is stencil on wood. I love wood projects, and in the box you got a sheet of Oramask film for stenciling. The number is 813, and this is awesome because you can put it on something, stencil it, and I really love the look of paint. If you are in a pinch and you really need a certain color, and say you don't have that color vinyl and you need it right that second, you can grab some paint, stencil it on instead, and it's nice if you're in a bind. So we are going to use our stencil film, like I said, and then we're also going to use one of these wood outlined boxes. So this is the Mondo Llama brand from Target, but you could really get these anywhere. Hobby Lobby has them, Michael's, Joann's, really anywhere. So you can get those wherever. And then I am going to start by prepping it. So the first thing I did was stain the entire thing in Briar Smoke by Varathane. And then I added some painter's tape on the inside so that this outside could be a border. And then I painted the inside with some black chalk paint to make this look like a chalkboard. Now from this point, you can use this method with any cut file that you either have or one of the 20+ ones provided to you for free with the box. The first thing I did was measure my sign and figure out how big my decal needed to be. So as I go across a sign, I am saying, okay, it's about 9 inches wide. So I am going to go a little bit off that and make it 8 inches. And then from the top down, let's say it's 12 inches. So I'm gonna go down to probably about 10.5. That's gonna make it fill the space, but it's not gonna go all the way up to the edges and look cramped. So I sized my sign, and then I also added a weeding box around the outside that would help me kind of center it in there. And that box ended up being about 8 by 10. And I will put the measurements on the screen, but you're gonna really wanna measure your specific sign before you do this. So the first thing we're gonna do with our stencil is we are going to weed it out. And the key here is to weed it in a little bit different of a way than you would a normal decal. When you're doing a vinyl decal, you're removing all of the outside stuff so the words stay, and here you're removing all of the words so the outside stuff stays, so that the paint goes where the words are, if that makes sense. So first thing I'm gonna do is take my weeding tool and remove that box. That is optional when you go to cut it, but I just decided that it would make life a lot easier if it had a weeding box. And then I'm gonna grab all of these other pieces. So the word winter is coming out for my stencil. Okay, so now this is all weeded, and we're gonna use some paper transfer tape. This is also from Expressions Vinyl. It is my favorite, and it comes in these rolls, and I love it because it is low tack. It's not gonna rip up all of that paint that you work so hard to put down. And you can also use the transfer tape that comes in the box. You'll just want to make sure that you, before you put it down onto your decal, that you put it on the table just to lower some of the stickiness so it doesn't rip off the paint. But it's already a lower tack than some other ones on the market, so you'll probably be just fine with that. But I love this paper transfer tape and I wanted to share it with you. Okay, so once this is on here, we're gonna take our little squeegee. We're gonna get it all stuck down really well. And then I'm gonna go around and just do a quick little kind of trim around the outside to get rid of these excess pieces. And then it's time to put it on our sign. So we're gonna get our sign here and we're gonna peel off this carrier sheet on the back. to reveal our stencil. And if you have any pieces that, sometimes those little pieces can be a little tricky, so just watch as you're pulling it up, and if anything comes up with the carrier sheet, just push it back down and it'll stick to the transfer tape. So now that I've got this here, I'm going to get it lined up, and I'm gonna stand up so I can kind of be right over the top of it and figure out, okay, where do I want this to sit? This looks like a good spot for me, so then I'm gonna start in the center, push up, I'm gonna push down, and then I'm gonna go out from the center. That helps alleviate and eliminate any air bubbles. So one piece of transfer tape. So nicely, it comes back. It's not gonna peel up your stencil film. Okay, so once our stencil's on there, it's kind of hard to see, but then we're gonna go through with that same black chalk paint that I used before, and I'm also going to use a little disposable makeup sponge that you would use to apply foundation. And I'm gonna put a little bit on this paper plate here. I just like to save my paper plates from holidays that have passed so I can use them for my paint. So I'm gonna dab a little bit of this into the paint. I'm gonna dab it off onto my paper plate here, just so it's coated, but it's not like caked in it. And then I'm gonna go over the top of the stencil to essentially prime it and set it for the white paint, which is what we're gonna stencil on here. Now, if you are doing this on top of a stained surface, I would recommend using a coat of Mod Podge, just a light one, and that just helps seal down the edges of your stencil, so then that way when we're gonna go through and do the same thing with our white paint, it's going to be less likely to bleed and to get little like spidery jet outs. Going up and down on all these words, and it's kind of hard to see, but I'm able to see kind of where it's all at. Then as you're doing this too, if you see any areas that you are going to probably need some painter's tape, so you don't go outside of your stencil, you can do that too. Like this edge here, I'll probably be okay because I've done it a few times. If your first time stenciling or you're worried and don't trust yourself, you can also put some painter's tape around the edges, just so then that way you don't end up with any paint kind of flopping anywhere on you. So as the black paint's drying, I'm just putting a little bit of white paint over here onto my plate. So then that's gonna be ready to go for my second disposable makeup sponge. You could also use a foam brush with a handle, but I find these are more economical. And also, if you're trying to get into smaller areas, you can always cut them in half and just kind of do smaller dabs that way. And now I'm gonna repeat the same step, but with the white. So get your sponge coated in the white. You can also use any of this free space on your stencil, just as long as it's not on the sign, but I like to use a little bit to kind of dab it off and get going. And then we're gonna start with our stencil. Then we're gonna let it dry, and we're gonna repeat anything that we need to, like if there's any areas that don't have good full coverage with the white, and then it'll be time to remove the stencil. So I like it a little bit more rustic, so I decided to leave it after the 2 coats, but if you want it to be a little bit more stark white, you could also do a 3rd coat, but this is the look I'm going for it to kind of be a little bit blotchy, but in like a good way. So then we're gonna take our weeding tool and we're gonna go up where any part of it kind of popped up at all on the edge of your stencil, and you're gonna give yourself something to grab. Then we're gonna start rocking this back and forth. And this is probably 50% dry. I like to work when it's a little wet. It just is a personal preference. You can wait till it fully dries, but I think it helps when it's just a little wet. Things don't all stick down. So then we're gonna start kind of rocking back and forth to peel up the stencil. You want to be gentle with it, but you'll also use a little bit of oomph to get the stencil up. And if it breaks away like this, no biggie, it will do that and you're not gonna reuse the stencil, so it's no problem at all. Alright, so then we've got all of our wording here that we stenciled on, and then we're going to carefully pick out any of these small pieces. Now don't be afraid to move your sign around to get to where you need to go. And also, you don't want to go straight down at it, you kind of want to go parallel. So as you go parallel to the wood, you're not poking down into the wood, which will then cause issues because you'll be kind of leaving holes in the wood. And with a dark base like this black, you'll be able to see it. And once you get all of those pieces out, let it fully dry and your sign is ready to go. Now, like I said before, you could use any of the files that are provided with the mystery box this go around, or really any other file that you have. You could design your own, you could do your name, tons of different options, but having the skill set to stencil is nice to have in your arsenal whenever you are wanting to try something new, make a sign, make a gift, etc. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and if you did and you recreate it, be sure to take a picture and share it on social media. Be sure to tag Expressions Vinyl as well as Whiskey and Wit, that's me, so then that way we can see all of the fun stuff you guys are doing with the January mystery project box. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching and happy crafting.